Welcome to Seggs Talk Radio, a podcast that explores kink and sex through candid and curious conversations. Join me and expert guests in exploring taboos and unpacking what it means to be sex and kink positive. Go check out our new website, sextalkradio.com. That is SEGGS talkradio.com. And I hope you enjoy the episode.
Well, and I think the thing that was the most overwhelming and most noteworthy about the pandemic was the amount of hugs I gave to weeping men, right? Because what little contact that men already have with each other and with others.
Yes.
What little contact that already happens in the normal world, multiply that times 10 during a global pandemic. Mm-hmm. So, I would greet someone at the door and I love like a good hug.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good hug? And the crying that would happen, right? From just from the holding, just from the skin to skin contact, right. that closeness and that intimacy. And that would make me cry, right?
Yes.
I mean, like, oh my God, to like hold this for someone and to be so present in that moment with someone.
Yeah.
Super, super intense and powerful. So it was very, very hardcore during the pandemic for everyone.
Well, I feel like men don't really societally have the permission to be afraid. Erin Medina, welcome to Seggs Talk Radio.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm happy to have you.
Thank you.
And thanks I'm popping your podcast cherry with me.
It's very true. It's all really happening.
Yes.
We are really popping my podcast cherry as we speak. Yes.
I'm honored.
Thank you.
You stood out to me on Twitter, on X. It's never going to be X in my mind. I don't know.
Same. Totally same.
But you just stood out to me there. You're very elegant and well-spoken.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, I've spent a good amount of time on sex worker Twitter, I suppose.
Yeah.
I wanted to have you on and share more about yourself and your world.
Thank you. I'm so honored, and it's such a joy to be here. And you've been so lovely from the very, very beginning. So you've made all of this too easy. So it's been awesome.
I think that sharing sexuality very holistically is very important to me with the podcast. Mm-hmm. Like, I've seen a lot of other podcasts really focused on super specific parts of it, but I think there's so much to it, and
Definitely.
So I've really found an interesting balance between interviewing academics and researchers and medical professionals and sex workers to paint this picture of, modern sexuality.
Yeah. And, something that I was a little on the fence about in the beginning, when you had first reached out to me, I was like, man, I am so passionate about my community. I love my community so much. And my greatest hope is to do everything I can for my community. My greatest fear is to let them down. Right. So it's like,
there's pressure.
Yeah. The Venn diagram of your greatest hopes and your greatest fears, right. And how they intersect. And so for me, it's super important. Anytime I speak to anyone about this work, my experiences are solely my experiences, right? Of course, like, the girls gossip, we all have like things that we're like, oh my God, that happened to me too. Like, so there are obviously things that overlap, but I would never want to put myself in a position to represent this huge, massive community with so many different experiences.
Yes.
I mean, there are so many different types of people who make up my community, right? So
Definitely.
I just want to preface this by saying,
I agree,
because I feel like pop culture is constantly working on ways to homogenize sex work. Right.
Yes.
They're constantly looking for ways to polarize it, homogenize it. It's like, oh, well, if this person's experience is this way, then it must be so.
Right.
Right. And that just couldn't be farther from the truth. And that's why when, films come out or television shows come out on Twitter, which is, just a great example because we were talking about Twitter, we're all like up in arms about like, I don't know anyone who's ever had that experience, right? We tend to get pretty frustrated because we feel like you're trying to represent us and you fall short all the time, right? So
we're talking about Honora.
Anora, etc. Right?
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen Anora. Okay. It's been a really busy year for me, so I actually haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, which feels very like, shame on you. But yeah, I mean, Diary of a Call Girl, right? Like all of these different things, and so for me, it's just super important to say anything I say and anything I share. It's my experience, and definitely. All I hope is that as your podcast moves forward and as you meet more people, you get to meet so many other sex workers who have so many other stories to kind of create this beautiful like tapestry of who we are and what we do. Yeah. So
I love that. And I also really hope to speak to sex workers in Europe at some point. I know things can be very different there.
Very.
And I've also heard that rates can be very low and like conditions are very different. Mm-hmm. And, I think it is important to not glamorize it too much, even though like it's been a really positive experience for most people I know.
Totally.
Huge range. So
totally. Range. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from, background, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I'm from the South.
Okay.
My accent only comes out after like a strong drink or two. It's kind of like traveled. It's kind of traveled.
I heard it like a couple times when we had our prep call.
Yeah, it'll kind of
twang.
Yeah, it'll kind of slip out here and there. Or like if I get on the phone with my best friend from high school or my sister, then it just it's like, oh my God, who is that? That kind of leaps out of me. But yes, I'm from the South. I'm from super intense rural Bible Belt America. I was raised extremely religious.
Okay.
Extremely religious. And I actually think the extreme religion to sex work pipeline is...
And to Kinkster pipeline.
And to Kinkster, into Kink community pipeline is super intense, which is really funny. So, I kind of tell people like, oh, I was raised really religious and I'm so surprised by the amount of people. They're like, oh my God, me too. Mm-hmm. So we really trauma bond with one another, and we really get to heal through... being in each other's lives, which is really awesome. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was raised in the South and raised super religiously. Long story long, there was definitely a breaking point in my life where I felt that, okay, I don't know what else is out there, but this can't be the God that I'm taught. The Jesus that I'm taught to serve can't be a God that punishes people that I love.
Oh.
It can't be a God that punishes me for who I am.
There's so much shame involved in that.
Oh
extreme
my
religion.
God. I mean, for the longest time in my life, if I didn't do something with guilt, I would backtrack to do it again with guilt. Oh, you know what I mean? Like,
which is kind of kinky.
Yeah, I mean,
in a way,
I am who I am, and exactly. So yeah, I've definitely had to do tons of therapy around detangling all of those influences, and now I'm in such an incredible position where I'm able to support other people who struggle with guilt, support other people who struggle with chronic people pleasing. All of these themes really come from an intensely religious background.
Yes.
So yeah, I am not religious anymore. Shock and awe falls over the audience. I'm not still religious.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely spiritual and magical, and I love the chaos of the universe, and it's all very.
There's got to be more to this.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
It's all very twinkly and sparkly, and if there isn't, then I had a good ride. Whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah. I guess that's really the core of my background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the religion to kink or to embracing your sexuality pipeline is totally a reclamation too for so many people.
Oh my gosh.
Because there is a lot of crossover. I mean, many of my guests, both of my parents were quite religious and actually gave me the space to grow up believing whatever I wanted. They grew up religious. So I think it's interesting that I've still landed here as such a kinkster, but who knows?
Totally. Yeah, it's so healing and empowering, right? To learn that I can be myself and a good person. I can be the wholeness of myself. Yes. I can experience all of the juiciness and deliciousness of life and still be a really fantastic person, right? And so again, it's just that constant detangling of whenever I'm going through my, daily experience, where do I find the still remaining like jagged edges of my religious upbringing?
Right.
And how do I continue to do that long, steady work of smoothing out those jagged edges, right? So that there's not so much friction, I certainly don't want it to drive the car. I'm proud to say that I feel pretty strongly that it's not really driving the car anymore. Yeah. But healing is not linear.
Did a lot of work to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So there will definitely be things that will come up that I'm, the other day I was in some random store and some Christian contemporary song came on and I was like, oh, triggered, oh my God. Like, so things will definitely catch you by surprise, and then you just kind of roll with it. And then I just kind of sang along with it. And like, it was cool and it was done, So when you grow up extremely religious, and I was religious until I was like 19 years old.
Okay.
I'm 33.
Yeah.
I am still not yet to the point where I have been outside of my religious community for half of my life.
Right. You've been in it longer than
I've been in it longer than I've been out of it still.
Yeah.
So that's also an opportunity for me to give myself some grace around.
Definitely.
If you have a moment of like, whoa, what's happening? What's going on? I'm still working on getting to that huge pivotal halfway point. So yeah, it's crazy.
I find, and again, did not grow up religious, but I find, and I think this is more of a societal thing, is like before and after certain sexual experiences, feeling that shame and that guilt.
Sure.
Specifically before, leading up to encounters.
Sure.
And so that's been something I've been working on navigating. And yeah, more times than not, it's prior to the experience, and then after, I'm like, oh, why was I in my head about that? Well, that wasn't a big deal, especially if there's some type of exchange involved.
Sure. And a lot of that is exposure therapy.
Right.
Do
it to get over it.
Do it. The only way out is through.
Yeah.
Right? And what an incredible position I'm in to be able to help facilitate that.
For other people, too.
Yeah, for other people.
Yes.
And even though, and I think that's something super important to take away from all of this is, just because you're not fully healed doesn't mean that you can't lend a helping hand to someone who's trying to heal.
That's beautiful.
I'm not going to sit here and say, I am fully healed and this is why I can do it. It's not about waiting until you're fully healed to potentially impact someone else's life positively. Definitely. And so, as long as you come at it from a vulnerable place and you're like, okay, this is where we are and this is what I can share with you, then we're golden. Yeah. So, yeah.
I love that. So when did sex work come into your life and how did it come into your life?
It's really hard to answer this question specifically. So I'm gonna try to articulate it in as succinct of a way as possible. Yes. But it feels much more miasmic than it actually,
like October 2022.
Yeah. So but I will say in terms of dates, I celebrate my sex work anniversary on July 15th.
Okay.
So
coming up.
Yeah.
Invite me.
Yes. Well, this upcoming July 15th is going to be my 6 years doing full service sex work.
Yeah.
And before that, I had done a tiny bit of like seeking arrangement,
I've done that.
Sugaring type of stuff.
Ugh, it's so much work.
Well, to be fair, I had some pretty horrific experiences.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's just not the same system of community checks and balances.
Yes.
People think
accountability.
People think that sex work is the like full service sex work, escorting is the Wild West.
Right.
Sugaring is the
gray area with no boundaries
West.
and no verifications.
Yeah. And the entire,
I have a huge issue with seeking.
Totally. Yeah. Right. The entire relationship is predicated on the power of the daddy. Right. There's absolutely no opportunities for screening, safety. Very rarely are you able to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And I find that sugaring is set up, the culture of sugaring is definitely set up around and again, this is my experience. If you talk to any sugar baby that had a better experience than me, I would be so excited to listen to that episode of your podcast, right? So in my experience, I felt that turning to sugaring, it really thrives off of desperation. I was in such a desperate place, and I was very young. I was definitely taken advantage of and received an incredibly nominal amount of money for the the labor that I was doing.
It can be like a few $100s for an entire evening.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
What I always say about seeking, and one of the things I would like to build as an entrepreneur someday is a competitor. I actually have an idea for a product. But what I say about seeking is you have the two most unqualified people to be handling sex work trying to negotiate it. So,
sure.
You know, I think the power imbalance can also come into play even more if the man has been doing it for a long time. However, when you have two people that are inexperienced, it's not really anyone's fault. They're both just have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Sure.
Usually like a young college-age girl, and then you have a guy who's, you know, recently divorced or married, and they're trying to negotiate sex work and neither have experience. And it's like, they need to bring in a middleman to help. I know they can't legally discuss sums of money. But like, it's a mess.
Well, I think I totally, absolutely 1,000% agree with you that it's a horrible mess. And I was actually just about to say that even on the platform, whenever you're trying to spark some sort of connection with a person, you cannot talk about what your expectations are financially. You cannot.
You have to take it off the app.
Yep. You have. And a lot of people get kind of nervous taking things off of the app anyway, because they're, you know, either uncomfortable or, you know, scared or whatever the situation is, right? So the fact that you can't even discuss the brass tacks of it all through the platform itself is super problematic and really breeds a lot of miscommunication at best and people getting taken advantage of at worst. So sugaring.
Part of my advice for women listening, that if they are dabbling in it, is like, get them off the app and start talking about money as soon as possible. Because
definitely.
I remember wasting days getting to know somebody and feeling like there was a connection, and then being like, how does this amount work for a meeting, this amount month work for like an arrangement, like a, you know, an allowance, and then being like, oh no, I do 200 a time. And I'm like, block. It's like, that's a waste of your time.
I would love to. I totally agree, and I would love to elaborate on that know your worth and then add tax, right? And the right
in this
person.
Economy.
In this economy. And, you know, whenever you're working towards coming into an arrangement with someone, it is so much more sustainable to actually find a way to like that someone and to honor that someone and to kind of create some sort of relationship with that someone. You know, the number one rule of business is to stay in business. Right? So how can you make it as sustainable as possible for yourself? So coming at it from this desperate place and jumping at the first thing that could potentially work, know your power and stand in it, even when you don't feel powerful, because I guarantee you that you being powerful is only going to help you in the long run.
Absolutely.
And it's going to help protect you because you're the only person that is in charge of defending your own boundaries in a world where if you give someone an inch, it can turn into 10 miles very, very, very quickly, especially if you're feeling desperate.
It took me a long time, and it took me exploring going from more submissive to more dominant in the bedroom to realize that the right men are not scared of my power and of female power.
Amen. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to clap. This is all very
golf
loud.
Clap.
Golf clap. I'm being really sensitive about this microphone. Golf clap.
I love men that worship powerful women.
Golf
it's
clap.
My fave.
It's I get along best with men who, you know, when I walk into the room, they're just like,
goddess.
The other day I had a client. It was so funny. He was so sweet, and he looked at me and he was like, "You're so beautiful. I'm gonna throw up." And I was like, you know what? Thank you so much for saying that. It was so funny and so like precious, and it was hysterical. But it's like when people are not threatened by who you are in all of your power and your strength and your goodness, You know, those are the people, right? Those are
Yes.
the people, because those are the people that want you to flourish. They want you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
They want to support you. They adore you. They admire you.
Yeah.
And we deserve, especially in a world as tumultuous as sex work can be, we deserve to surround ourselves with those people. You know,
Totally.
we really do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so seeking was a stint, and then what?
Very brief, very scary.
Yeah.
And so I was actually, so I was a nanny for many years.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
Oh, I could see that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just love like healing ancestral wounds via children,
Aw.
right? It's like, okay, I'm going to make sure that you did not have the childhood that I had, right? It's like very super intense work.
Yes.
And I take it very seriously. So yeah,
Sure.
I was a nanny for many years, and I had just moved back to the States. I was living abroad for a while, and I had gotten hooked up with this like fancy pantsy like nanny agency.
Au pair?
Yeah,
Like
it was kind of
yeah.
it was kind of like this, like I didn't live with them, but they were looking for someone who had specific requirements and
Sure.
all these different things to impart upon their, you know, fancy New York children.
Oh my gosh.
You know, type of thing.
I live in the Upper West Side, and it's quite strange to see the nanny culture of like, I'm like, do these kids hang out with their parents?
Yeah. It's really hardcore. Exactly.
weird.
Exactly. So it's really hardcore. And so I was hired by this crazy, insanely wealthy family to take
I
care.
love rich people.
They, well,
Yeah.
just you wait. So I thought that, you know, we were having like a pretty good time. The kids were definitely struggling to connect with me, but it was because they missed their parents who were
Sure.
constantly traveling and
Yeah.
always doing, you know, all sorts of endeavors for their career. And
Right.
naturally the kids are going to be in pain, right?
Yes.
And I cannot replace
Right.
your parent, you know?
Yeah.
So long story long, I worked with them for about 7 months. Many months prior, I had told them, oh, I'm actually going to be in a wedding in Scotland. And so, yeah, it was so awesome. One of my best friends from college, we're going to have this wedding in Scotland. So I'm going to need, you know, this like week and a half off. And so all of that was totally cool. And I got to Scotland and I was in the wedding. That upcoming Monday, it was time for me to make a couple clicks on the computer to submit
Sure.
my payroll for what I was doing with the nannying. And it kept denying. And so
Chills.
and so I'm out of the country.
Yes.
And I'm, you know, contacting the payroll company like, hey, I don't know what's going on. Is it my IP address? Your whatever.
Right.
And they were like, no, actually, it seems like this payroll account has been closed. I highly recommend that you contact your employer. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's super crazy. I contact my employer. Hey, just want to let you know this is what's happening. And I get an email back saying, hey, yeah, you know, sorry about that. We just kind of realized that, you know, we might be moving out of the country soon. And I think we're just going to like go in a different direction. I've never been fired from a job before. At that chapter of my life, I was living like many New Yorkers, paycheck to
Well, it sounds like you would have been
paycheck.
getting paid for the time prior, like for work you'd done, right?
Yeah. So
Like-
so I sent this email I basically had to go into survival mode, being
Yes.
like, what the
Yes.
actual fuck in so many eloquent words.
Yeah.
And I asked, you know, can you like elaborate? Was there anything specifically that I did? I mean, I was completely shocked. I contacted the agency to see if my
Blindsided.
agency knew about it. I was totally blindsided. So there I was in a different country. I was supposed to be there to like support my best friend who was getting married. I planned a trip to Ireland after that. So I, you know, kind of set all of this stuff up for me to have this like one vacation out of the year.
Right.
And I couldn't apply for unemployment because I was out of the country. So in the state of New York, if they clock that you're out of the country, if you try to file for unemployment, then they like yell at you. It's very scary.
Of course.
And so I was so panicked and I was weeping and I was so shocked.
Yeah.
And that same day, that same exact day, I got an email, a very mysterious email saying, hey, we had actually exchanged information on seeking arrangement about 6 months ago. And I just want to let you know, I actually contacted you through a fake profile. I know that's like super weird, but my name is so-and-so, and I actually run an agency for escorts in New York City.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you would be interested, and I was wondering if you wanted to like meet and talk about it. And I emailed him back immediately and said, I'll be back in the city in a week.
Yeah.
And so I met with him. And we had this like super long, intense meeting, and I totally grilled him about all of these different questions.
Totally.
And I was really scared, and
definitely
because I had been involved in the kink scene for maybe like 5 months before all of this happened, not even 5 months.
Yeah.
So I had already befriended some kinksters and some other sex workers and some, cool, weird, and wonderful people. Yeah. So I had already had a bit of exposure. It wasn't like vanilla to escort, right? Like it wasn't like normie to
so it was a process.
Sex work, So I had a little bit of an in between,
definitely
in my community. But I had asked him all of these different questions. I felt fear. I felt shame. I felt guilt. I felt really confused.
It's like, am I really doing this?
Am I really doing this? And so I, went back home. I got in the shower. I cried for about 3 hours. Imagine like the shock and the craziness of all of this. And then a couple days later, I had my first appointment that I did with him. It was like an MMF threesome.
With the manager?
With my manager.
Oh.
Listen.
Okay, I don't know.
So it was an MMF threesome with my manager.
Oh, I've always wanted one of those.
It was like, all right,
was he hiring you though?
No, so it was his client.
Okay.
So he was, and I'm not going to mention his name,
of course,
but he was at that point for 13 years. He was a male escort.
Oh, okay.
So he wasn't gay. He was gay for pay.
It's fascinating.
He was gay for pay. And so for me, in the process of learning how to trust him, I thought to myself, okay, the only way that I'm going to have a boss in this business is if this guy is getting fucked in the ass. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
Please do.
If this guy is getting fucked in the ass for like 13 years,
oh my God,
then maybe
absolutely.
I'm going to be able to trust this guy.
For sure. Okay,
right?
I thought it was like he hired you for like a tryout or something.
No, it was basically him being like,
male
all
client.
Right. Yeah, he was like, all right, let's see what you got.
Sure.
And so, which was actually kind of cool because the very first experience I had, it was like kind of chaperoned.
Sure.
I had kind of this, person who was like, all right, let's like see what's up.
Right.
And so it happened. The client like went to the bathroom and I turned and looked at him and I was like, that's it?
Right.
And he said, that's it. And I high-fived him. And in that moment is when Erin was born.
Oh.
And that was 6 years ago on July 15th.
Okay.
Isn't that such a crazy story?
That is.
Yeah. So much has changed since I
of course,
certainly don't work for an agency anymore. Yes. No shade on agencies. If that's good for you, then that's great. But for me, I cannot have a boss. I just can't function that way. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm my own benevolent dictator as well as everyone else is, And so, the origin story is definitely a very weird, wild, fascinating story that I actually don't tell often because it just doesn't ever come up.
Yeah.
And that for real, totally crazy, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, and I don't want to perpetuate that desperation is always involved, but like when I've explored sex work, it didn't come from like my bank account is full. Like there was a come to Jesus moment of like, what are we going to do here? And what do I want to be making for my time?
Totally.
Like my time is so valuable.
Totally. And I certainly, and I totally agree with you. And I kind of, I value honesty a lot, and so for me, I was like, well, I really do want to share this like super wild story, but I also definitely don't want to be a part of perpetuating this narrative of desperation and clamoring for whatever. But
I think that's often involved.
But the facts are the facts for me.
Yeah.
The facts are the facts for me. And this is a really important part of my story. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I am not operating from a place of desperation now. And I haven't for many, many years. I'm so incredibly grateful to be able to say that. And yet that was the beginning. That was the beginning. So crazy stuff.
I've done a little bit of research to see like what the agency websites look like. And I'm like, these are bad. Like these websites are so old. These photos of these women look like they're from the 90s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can see why clients would want an agency. There's like an added layer of trust. But I'm when I was Googling it, I'm like, I'm not seeing trustworthy feeling websites. So, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on sex work, but just in the sense of like, it's barely possible to even market or get a website up legally. You know what I mean? Like it's so nuanced.
Yeah, it's super nuanced. And post Fosta Sesta, you know, so much has changed. And even in the wake of this new administration, we continue to be, you know, fearful and concerned. But if there is one thing that sex workers have done for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
of years.
Since the dawn of fucking humans, it is adapt. So it's in our DNA. And so when girls, I say girls, when women, when the gals come to me, right, and they want to learn about maybe how to get involved or whatever, I tell them, you know, this is absolutely not for the faint of heart. You need to have incredibly thick skin, and at any moment, you need to be able to adapt. So you get to answer for yourself if these are parts of your spirit, right? If these components are parts of your spirit, then potentially you could be a good candidate for this. But if you're uncomfortable with adapting, it is going to make this work infinitely harder. So,
okay, so then what evolved from there? Post agency, or what adventures have you had?
Oh my God. Yes is kind of the answer, right? So from I had worked with the agency for my first, year. And I was starting to feel some friction, in the agency that I had worked in. I didn't have access to my clients. All of this was kind of done through a middle lady.
Yes, booker, right?
Yeah, she was like a booker. So she would send, and another thing that I really didn't like as well is that the clients did not know that I was working for an agency. So when they would reach out on like Eros or something, if they would reach out and they would
text
say, they would email. We did everything through email. The booking lady would reach out to them as if I was speaking to them, right? And then she would text me and say, hey, are you free for, hey, are you free whenever someone's looking for whatever, right? And so that was something that didn't sit well with me.
It's not truly, authentic in that way.
That didn't feel good to me at all. And I had actually found myself in situations where I would meet someone and I would be like, if I had control over the way that this person was communicating to me, I could have very potentially protected myself from a situation that ended up being quite unsavory. So it had kind of gotten to a boiling point. And
you wanted agency over your own.
I wanted agency.
Yes.
I didn't want an agency. I wanted agency. And so I definitely found myself feeling pretty frustrated by that. And then COVID happened.
Shit. Oh my God, what did you do?
COVID happened. So COVID was absolutely terrifying, to say the very least. I was in New York City. It was totally dystopian. I mean, like morgue trailers with bodies stacked into them. It was Stephen King, like, could never, it was like beyond, it was so scary.
Whoa.
And so I was,
and you're like, I need to have, like, I need client, like I need in-person contact to pay my bills.
Yep,
too.
Exactly. And exactly. So tons of people tried to like turn to online stuff.
Right.
I was so devastated. I'm not a big... Apart from my social media, I don't really do a lot of online things.
Well, we're getting you an Instagram.
Yeah.
This week.
I know. Oh my God. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So for everyone to know, Twitter is really where our community goes, goes bananas.
Yeah.
So Instagram is something that's kind of like, if you have the extra time or energy.
Yes.
But Thea was like, you have to have an Instagram. And I was like, fine.
I do think it's good for sex workers to have, because clients might go to it to validate, like, oh, they're a person because of all these social media channels exist.
Sure. Secondary verification is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm the CEO and the janitor and everyone in between. So I, my capacity to do all of these things. I'm also a business owner. I'm a designer. I'm a floral designer. So
That's amazing.
So I have my own business also.
That's incredible.
So I constantly feel like I'm spinning 10 dinner plates on each finger. But the fire that burns closest to me is the fire that gets my attention.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
We are going to make me an
by the
Instagram.
time you're listening to this,
exactly.
Be an Instagram.
Exactly.
What's your Twitter, just while we're here, while people are engaged?
It should be at Erin Medina NYC.
Cool.
I'm
great.
Almost 1,000% positive.
Okay. If it's not, we'll edit it in or something.
Good. Okay, good.
So COVID.
Yeah, so COVID happened, and I had an opportunity. I don't want to go into too many details because I want to protect this person's identity.
Of course.
But
exclusive?
Yeah, well, I was living with someone at the time, and they had an opportunity to move out to the West Coast, and they said, well, you're coming with me.
Oh, great. This is my dream.
You're coming with me. And I said, it's happening, right? It's absolutely happening. So we booked one-way tickets to California and left October of 2020, touched down, slipped on my Birkenstocks, bought a Prius,
right.
assimilated, had this like big orange tree in the yard. And that was, that was kind of where, we decided to land during COVID. And so.
Was this a romantic partner and client, like
I don't want to say.
Mix? Okay, that's fine.
I don't want to say. So this was a huge change in my life.
Sure.
I had left pretty much everyone, that was in my circle during a time.
In the pandemic.
Yeah, during a pandemic. I mean, it was totally crazy, but it was definitely one of those things where I mean, it came down to brass tacks, right? It was something that had to be done. And so then Erin continued, during COVID, which is really scary, but
sure,
it kind of just is what it is, and so
lots of rapid tests, I'm
sure. Exactly. And so I am super grateful. I actually didn't get COVID until like 2022.
Same.
Yeah, so I was really, really grateful that I didn't have any issues, but everyone in the industry was extremely careful and did everything they could to protect themselves and each other.
Right. I mean, I'm sure sex work continued through the pandemic.
It
is a pandemic-proof, recession-proof.
It sure did.
Industry. Yeah. It's always going to be there.
Yeah, it sure did.
It might ebb and flow, but
totally.
It'll be there.
Well, and I think the thing that was the most overwhelming and most noteworthy about the pandemic was the amount of hugs I gave to weeping men.
Oh.
Right? Because what little contact that men already have with each other and with others.
Yes.
What little contact that already happens in the normal world, multiply that times 10 during a global pandemic. So, I would greet someone at the door and I love like a good hug.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good hug? And the crying that would happen. Right? From just from the holding, just from the skin to skin contact, that closeness and that intimacy. And that would make me cry, right?
Yes.
I mean, like, oh my God, to like hold this for someone and to be so present in that moment with someone.
Yeah.
Super, super intense and powerful. So yeah, it was very, very hardcore during the pandemic for everyone.
Well, I feel like men don't really societally have the permission to be afraid. And it was a scary fucking time first year, you know? So, and I think sex work creates this really fascinating safety net of vulnerability because you're already doing something pretty taboo.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really powerful. There's a lot of vulnerability in that. Makes sense.
Yep. So all of that happened during COVID. And then as COVID slowly began to feel more manageable for the world, you know, a bunch of things changed. And I'm super grateful that I've been on a pretty steady upwards trajectory despite COVID.
Totally.
Ever since the inception of Erin. So yeah, I'm super grateful.
I was in LA during the pandemic as well, which also was quite shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, similar to not similar to New York. I think New York was a whole different level. But at least we had nice fresh ocean air and all those things.
Well, that was the thing
about
wild
time.
Yeah, living in San Francisco, you know, if we got stir crazy, we could get in the car and go to the beach. We'd get in the car and go on a hike. You know, California has no lack of green space or outdoor, you know, we went to Yosemite, really just being outside as much as possible.
Yeah. And
while living in New York, obviously that is like a completely different, you know, you can't even compare the experiences, you know? So it was definitely a really cool opportunity to be able to go to California. And I, you know, lived in California for a while. I still go back pretty often.
Yes.
I have, you know, chosen family who live in California who I love very dearly. And it was a really cool time in my life.
I've been missing it. I lived for 10 years up in rural Northern California in Humboldt County.
Yes.
I started a cannabis company up there actually. And yeah, I mean, the grass is always greener is kind of what I've been experiencing. I'm headed towards about to hit the 6-month mark of being here. And I'm like, the veil is lifted a little bit. And I'm like, oh, it's hard. It's hard to live here. It's like, I'm kind of feeling it. So of course the grass is greener. I'm like, maybe California. I'm like, Thea, just sit still.
Yeah. But this is to be fair and to give yourself some grace. New York is such a notoriously hard place to live. You know,
getting groceries is fucking hard.
It's all hard.
Everything is hard. And I'm an efficiency-minded lady. Yeah. And it's like I'm at war with myself because I love efficiency in everything I do. I'm like, maybe this is not the most efficient place to reside. I don't know. It
certainly isn't. And the culture of the city, I find, is, you know, you're more heroic for suffering, right? So it can kind of you know, turn into this unspoken or even spoken.
I work 16 hours a day. Like these finance bros. I'm like, is it a competition? Like, you keep canceling your date with me. I don't think it's a competition when you can't follow through.
Yeah. And for me, I'm like, well, you know what? I'm so grateful to not be laboring under the misconception that I'm someone's hero for suffering. I certainly, you know, and that's on therapy. That's on a
big fan
therapy
every week, baby.
Yeah, a lot of therapy to learn and to really deeply internalize that I'm actually not my hero and I'm not your hero for suffering. And I do believe that there is a huge difference between resilience and suffering, right? There's a difference between resilience and self-sacrifice or self-abandonment, right?
Yes.
But yeah, being resilient, I actually have this little fortune cookie that I got in Chinatown, and it's on my refrigerator, and it says, resilience is to bounce back from life's setbacks with grace. Right? So
for sure,
to make sure that we're separating the definition of, well, I'm resilient. I'm a New Yorker, so I'm resilient, right? It's like, well, I hope that's true, right? But this culture of suffering that we tend to perpetuate, right? Like, I'm super cool if I'm suffering more.
Yeah.
Is something that I definitely struggle with. And this is my like third time living in New York in my life. Yeah. So every time I come, you know, here and back, which is something that you'll hear a lot of New Yorkers.
Like I'll probably end up in that pattern.
Yeah, you hear a lot of New Yorkers that, you know, they'll leave and they're like, man,
nowhere beats it.
It's time to go back. Yeah. But every time you go, you leave and you come back, you take more, you learn more, and you adjust and you adapt accordingly,
I mean, I have grown, and this is where I'm not sure how positive of a thing it is, but I've grown much tougher since living here these last 6 months, and resilient. But also I was just in Indiana last week, and I'm like, like it's like the slow small town feeling.
Totally.
But I'm fundraising and I'm building a company right now, and I'm like, there's nowhere to be around more inspiring people. I think that's something that I really love about this city. It's like when I would go do networking things, whether it was in LA or Austin where I lived prior, it was like a lot of people with ideas, but people are like doing the damn thing here.
Sure.
Because they gotta pay their bills. Sure. And like I'll go to a business meetup networking event, and people are like, oh, let me introduce you to my friend who's a VC. And then they actually introduce me. Like it's there's this like loyalty here that's fucking awesome.
It's a very action-based place.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's very action-based. And that was something that I was definitely missing in California.
Right.
Was I now, granted, with the exception of the tech space, right? I wasn't involved in the tech space. I had a bunch of friends that were in the tech space, so I can't speak for that. But other spaces, it was a little too laissez-faire.
Agreed.
For me. Mm-hmm. And I was also born on the East Coast, so so for me, and then also too, it's like growing up religiously, it's like, okay, well, you've got to work really hard, and you've got to do this, and you've got to have, your mission, and you've got to do, all this super intense stuff. I mean, I was like I was a street preacher. Totally crazy. I like would.
It kept you busy. Yeah, unpaid labor. We love that.
I was a busy unpaid child for the Lord.
God.
Yes, the Lord has written me a lot of IOUs. That's for sure that I've never cashed. But I definitely grew up, even though I didn't grow up here, I grew up in a culture of, unless you are breaking your back, you are being lazy, right? There's no space for being self-regarding or taking a rest. Yeah. It's all about your output, and it's all about doing so much for others that you're, the sacrificial lamb to everyone else, right? And so I do everything I can to live in New York, to be an entrepreneur. I have 2 businesses.
Wow.
And I do everything I can to make all of that happen while also trying to honor myself, give myself time to rest. I think that might be... I think the topic of rest might be the one place where I still feel those jagged edges that I was talking about earlier.
Same, dude.
Right? Like,
oh my God.
I feel pretty guilty. Yeah.
Yes. I saw a TikTok the other day that it was just this guy. It was a quick clip, and he was like, "You're telling me you don't feel guilty all day, all the time? Like just life guilt all the time?" And especially emphasized with trying to rest.
Totally.
What does rest and self-care look like for you as a sex worker? I feel like that's really important for longevity.
I think this is a really great question, and exactly longevity, sustainability. Yeah. So it definitely looks different for everyone. I'm very extroverted. So did you notice?
I love that.
I'm super,
I literally go put my face in the pillow after interview days. I'm so introverted.
Yeah, I'm crazy extroverted. So this stuff fuels me, and I think that's why I'm a good New Yorker.
Totally.
The energy like pumps
and a good
me.
sex worker.
Thank you. Yeah. It definitely helps. It definitely helps a lot, especially for me in my girlfriend experience. Right, like my genre of work is very connective and conversational, and being an extrovert helps. Right. So I would say for me, what's really nourishing is spending time with my community. We will go out to brunch, or we'll all just go, pile up on the couch somewhere, or, go to the bathhouse together, or go to a show
I've
together.
Been wanting to go soak.
Yeah. So we work really hard to make time for each other.
Love that.
And that is incredibly grounding, because sex work can be really isolating.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say. Sex work can be really isolating. So I am so unbelievably grateful that I have this awesome community full of women who are literally the coolest people I've ever met. I'm like, wow, I'm so honored to be with you all. Like I love them all so dearly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that that's a huge one. I also do my very best to travel outside of work.
Sure.
So I'm a travel companion. You know, I travel with clients pretty often. I have a trip to Japan coming up with a client. Yeah, I have a trip to Japan coming up with a client in a couple of weeks, which is really awesome. And so as someone who has tons of experience traveling prior to you know, becoming a sex worker, that like comes in you know, really handy.
Definitely.
But making sure that I keep time for myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a huge solo traveler. That's like,
I love that.
Yeah, it's like super, super important to me. Most of my world travel has been solo, with the exception of what I've done with my clients. And to continue prioritizing going on solo trips. I mean, I've even had clients that have said, oh, I want to go here with you, or I want to go here with you. And I, you know, gently will point them in a different direction because I'm like, man, that one's actually going to be by myself.
That's on my list.
Yeah, like that. That's actually meant to be. That's meant to be for me, and me alone, or me, you know, meeting up with another friend or whatever. I have friends, you know, all over the place. But yeah, that's those are two big things. Also, I'm a gardener, so just plant stuff.
Yes.
You know, anytime I'm covered in dirt, I'm happier than I've ever been, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I work really, really hard. To sum it all up, I make time to care for myself.
Yes.
I really, really make time to care for myself and to make sure that I spend time out in public, not as Erin, you know. I spend time out to dinner, not as Erin. I have this big, beautiful, awesome life outside of Erin too. And that's a huge reason why I'm able to come up on 6 years strong as Erin, you know, is because I have an identity outside of her that is just as cool. So if I do say so myself.
Yes.
So yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, sex work is really emotionally complex and draining.
Yeah.
It can be. And I think that the recovery and the recoup, well, this is coming from an introvert, but is very important, whatever that looks like for someone.
You'd actually be pretty surprised at the amount of sex workers who are actually very introverted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really feel like there are not too many. I'm thinking about my community, right? In particular, like I'm looking at everyone's faces in my mind, and I'm like, oh,
introvert.
Yeah. I'm usually, you know, the one to order at the table or make the phone call.
Hey, a group of introverts needs their extrovert to handle shit.
Exactly. Like I'll talk to someone who needs to, you know, I'll be like, oh, excuse me, you know, to get someone's attention or whatever. But yeah, I definitely feel like I was really surprised, you know, when I started making, you know, friends in the community many years ago, that more people weren't as extroverted as I am, because I just don't know how I would be able to really handle it. It makes it that much more, you know, it makes it that much more complicated.
Yeah. I think the introvert, and I'm neurodivergent and have met quite a few sex workers that are as well. And so it's like, I think that there's something about the clear boundary and knowing the amount of time you have to spend with somebody that makes us feel so clear and in control of stuff.
Definitely.
And so it's like, yeah, I think for some introverts, it's like, okay, an hour, great, got it, can handle that. Versus like going on a civilian vanilla date where you're like, we're 3 hours in, I'm so tired of talking. When is this going to end?
Sure. And I think that the container is so unbelievably powerful for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Right? I actually work with a lot of clients who are introverted or who struggle with the, you know, all of the details of the social interactions, you know, maybe even on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And the container of time is such an awesome opportunity to feel like, okay, I can connect. We can, we can really go somewhere together. We can have a great time. And I'm not boundaries. And there are boundaries, and I'm not having to do this mental labor around, oh, is it to this or to that? Or it's like, no, this is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And you get to sit back while I manage the container for us and keep everything feeling really good. And and that's, my joy to be able to facilitate that. And it's awesome. So it's incredibly helpful, not just for sex workers, but also for the clients as well.
Definitely. What would I would like to talk a little bit about like first time clients and like people exploring hiring a sex worker. I feel like there aren't really enough resources out there for them. And I feel like there's a lot of trepidation and fear. But I personally think the world would be a way better place if more people were hiring sex workers.
Totally.
Something kind of offshoot but related, something I encounter a lot in the civilian dating world is this love bombing to get laid and then ghosting. And that's
demonic.
Really painful experience.
That is demonic.
But it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And
totally.
It's not even necessarily something that these people are conscious of. There is sexual energy that they want to release and they want to have sex, but they're stringing somebody along and creating a lot of pain.
Sure.
But it's something I experience a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that if there was maybe a bit more clarity for, you could literally hire a sex worker and have sex and have this experience and not harm anyone, like in the same emotional way.
Sure.
I think the world would be a better place.
Sure. And I think it's really important to overstate that when you hire a sex worker, very rarely is it just sex.
Oh, absolutely.
So for me, and my approach to sex and my sexuality is, if it's just sex, I'm usually like kind of upset. Like it's just not in my nature.
Yeah.
I really want to get to know you. I really want to connect with you. I really want us to have a conversation. I want us to find common ground. And I'm really at the point in my career where, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, right? So I've reached the point in my career where if we are not spending at least the amount of time together that it takes for us to be able to go to dinner and to be able to connect in that way, then I am less and less available to be able to have those types of encounters because I just don't want that anymore. Right. Sure. And so that's kind of for me really just honoring what I need in terms of the exchange. And so because that component is incredibly important to me, I just want to make sure that everyone listening knows that it is not, when you hire a sex worker, especially someone who advertises as girlfriend experience like what I do, very rarely, if ever, is it just a sexual experience, right? It's not, it's not incredibly anonymous. It's really connective. And so the thing about the love bombing, now I'm certainly no expert, but I do find this to be quite fascinating. When you hire a sex worker, you're also able to engage emotionally in a really deep way with someone that there's a container, right? It's not just that sexual aspect, right? So if you find yourself to be the type of person, which I would love if they were listening to this podcast. How amazing. I'm not sure if that's the audience, but let's hope that someone is listening, where if you feel like, okay, the only way that I'm able to release all of this intense, passionate, sexual, love bomb, ish energy, the only way to do that is for me to just do it and then like burn the house down as I exit, then absolutely hiring a sex worker could be incredible for you, because you can love bomb and love and worship and adore and give all of this, intense energy to a beautiful woman, who is your captive audience, who right. we're like sitting there and connecting with you and being there with you, and it's only you in the room with us in that moment. It's only you at dinner with us in the moment. I'm not, texting on my phone or distracted by social media. It's like, no, we are together, right? And we're so deeply present with each other. And you can have this super intense experience and then it's done.
Right.
Right. And then it's done.
And that's clear for both parties.
and no one is traumatized.
Right.
That's the
right.
that's the thing, right? And that's theoretical, of course. I do have clients who can definitely struggle with the container aspect, right? I definitely have clients who can struggle with feelings of insecurity or feelings of, was that really real, right? And
definitely,
and
can feel confusing.
It can feel really confusing, right? And so the way that I try to soothe that is by leading with honesty and vulnerability, and sometimes even going into a bit of an educator role, right? Like, for example, the brain chemicals that are being released when we are going through these experiences, right? This crazy cocktail of neurochemicals, your vasopressin, your oxytocin, your serotonin, your adrenaline, all of these things are drugs in the brain that the brain is making, right? Your brain is lighting up like a Christmas tree. So naturally, there are opportunities to develop attachments. There are opportunities to develop super intense feelings. And I totally honor and recognize that as a part of the experience, right? Yeah. But we are all adults, and we get the opportunity to feel what we feel and act in ways that are in alignment with the container and the boundary that was agreed upon prior to us getting together, right? And so I've only had a few people in my history where I've had to tell them, it's getting to the point where it's getting uncomfortable, but I do my very best to communicate and to give people the opportunity to listen to me before firing, before firing someone, which definitely has to happen. Yeah. It definitely has to happen sometimes. But overall, I'm incredibly grateful for the people that come into my life and meet me in this really cool place where we're able to respect each other. We're able to respect each other's boundaries, respect each other's lives. But when we're together, there's this insane, wonderful, alchemy that happens, and we can't stop talking, and we're so excited, and we go on these really cool trips together and have these really cool experiences together. And when we're not together, we trust that we're thinking of each other. We trust that we've made a positive impact on each other's lives. And of course, there are people who have definitely earned the privilege,
slightly
if you will,
more access, or
a little more access, right? But typically, I like to approach things with a significant degree of separation, because I find
that's what we've both agreed on.
Yeah,
too,
I find that it helps. Again, going back to the sustainability part as well, I'm going on 6 years strong because I found, through trial and error and through collecting data, all of these ways that I'm able to protect myself and honor myself and pivot and adapt whenever I'm feeling like, oh, this actually feels like 10 miles rather than the inch.
Definitely.
Right? So yeah, it's constantly checking in with yourself. That's a huge form of self-care. Constantly checking in with myself.
It can be difficult when there's large sums of money on the line. It really makes you look at what's truly important.
Definitely. And the large sums of money can feel very sparkly and intense. And very often do I hear, stories of other workers who feel like they now have the golden handcuffs, right? They kind of create
Right.
And this is not anything that I'm saying right now is not to pass judgment in any way.
Yeah.
It's truly speaking about the experience of how difficult it is to balance how difficult it is to balance all of these things, because I have friends who have way bigger piles of money than I do. Right. And they're, swimming in their gold coins like Scrooge McDuck, and swimming in their gold coins.
Yeah. I've heard some crazy stories.
Yeah. But they tend to really struggle with things like personal identity and boundaries. And I'll never forget one time I was at a Starbucks, and they're just like rapid fire ordering and they were like, "What's your name?" And I said, "Erin." And I was like, whoa. Because I was not in a work environment.
Yeah.
It just kind of came out of me. And it was a super intense moment that I was like, whoa. Now,
who's who, what's what?
Who's who and what's what? And listen, I love Erin so much. Like when I think about Erin, I think about, Erin to me is like the biggest, bravest, strongest, best version of me.
Wow.
Yeah. Erin is my I don't know. Erin's like my Barbie.
You kind of see her as a different person that you step into.
I see her as me without fear.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
I see her like in situations where, Erin has had to manage something in real time.
Right.
I call it hooker magic. It's like
oh, who just did what?
Yes,
handled that how?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
courageous.
These moments will come out of me, will come out of me as Erin, that are such soft power. And Erin has taught me over the years, in the beginning, I was always trying to find ways to separate myself from Erin, because I thought that was the way to maintain my identity. But as I've grown, we're up on 6 years. As I've grown as Erin, I realize Erin really isn't a different person. She is me at my best and brightest and bravest and most courageous and softest. And she doesn't have to carry around the same things.
Oh wow.
As me, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't have to carry those things around.
It's
so
you, but there's like an energetic separation.
Yeah.
Where you can step in and out and on and off of the weights.
So she has taught me, I invoke her when I need her.
Yeah.
And because of her, I have been able to adopt the things that she does and the things that she is more and more and more. It's really fascinating and definitely difficult to articulate, because
I appreciate you being open about it. About there being a separation. I mean, I think, some guys might be like, "What's your real name?" And it's just like there's a lot at play here. Okay. You know what I mean? And for safety and boundaries and so many reasons. But I just appreciate you owning, this is who this is. I step into this. Yeah. It's my best self. And it's cool to articulate it that way. And
Erin, she is me.
Yeah.
And I can't.
Clients aren't getting a different,
No.
It's
she is so me, and she is who. She is who I always wanted to become, but I didn't know that I could.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Erin, having Erin in my life has actually helped me to heal a lot of really painful wounds around imposter syndrome.
Oof. Sure.
Erin has really helped me to heal a lot of wounds around, I need to shrink myself in order to be palatable.
Yes.
I need to shrink myself in order to experience love. So yeah, Erin yes, does she have a different name than who I am? Sure. And at some points, did I, have kind of a clumsy journey, kind of figuring all of that out?
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, Erin is me. Erin is who I've always wanted to be.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. And she came out of me.
Yes.
Therefore, I must have it in me to be these qualities, right? And so, it's kind of like she like holds my hand and shows me, look, this is everything that you can be. So she's always with me. Yeah, I don't really set her up on a shelf.
Yeah.
And I even have, what's really fascinating, I have some of my very best friends in the industry. They prefer to I prefer to be called by my other name because, again, it's like I like to have an identity outside of Erin. But I have friends who are like, you're just Erin. They're like, I'm sorry, but you're just...
Yeah, it definitely suits you.
You're Erin.
It's a good name.
You are Erin. And I'm like, you know what? It's fine. You
call me whatever you want.
Call me whatever you want. You're the only thing that you can't call me is lazy. Other than that, I'll probably answer to it. Like, it's fine. But yeah, Erin is a really, really cool, fascinating part of my life.
I love what you were saying about the separation and the boundaries there. So tell me more about your floral work and how you found that in your life.
Yes. Everybody knows me as the crazy plant lady.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am.
Yeah.
It's true. That is me.
I can't keep a single one alive, but
we will talk and I will help
please
you.
Help. Yes. Well, I'm more natural light now that I live in this city. Like my apartment, I'm like, I think I could keep something alive here. Yeah.
I will help you.
Thanks.
We'll do something really special, right? Yeah. Where it feels like you're in co-creation with your plant.
I want greenery.
Yeah. We're going to do it.
Okay. Cool.
I'll help you. Yeah, this is going to be great. I believe in you.
Thanks.
I'm a botanist and a floral designer and a grower and a farmer and anything that has to do with the plant, I'm there.
Yes.
Doing it. It's my greatest passion on the planet. I will be clutching my shears and my flowers the day I take my last breath. Yeah, yes. It's my soul, and I could talk about it forever. It's really like such a huge part of my life, and I was in the process. I was just living in Mexico to open a design studio. And I actually was super sick living in Mexico City.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah. The altitude and the pollution totally kicked my ass. I was there for this huge creative entrepreneurial endeavor, and I could barely get out of bed.
It's so hard when life kicks your ass like that, and you're just like, you're not supposed to live this vision you've had for years, probably.
Totally.
It's humbling.
It's super humbling. It's super humbling, and so I do everything I can to not be beholden to things like that, right?
Yeah, not attached.
It's like, cool, well, I'm going to grieve and then I'm going to pivot, so that's what happened. So that's, so that's why I'm back in New York.
Wow.
And so we're just kind of taking everything back to sea level, taking everything back to sea level. And now I've got this incredible private rooftop garden that I'm working on. Yeah.
So for a botany client or for a floral client, or yours?
It's mine.
Oh.
Yeah. And depending on what and when, there will definitely be some bespoke offerings from the garden. I'm also a color theorist. So in order to in order to put together a garden, you want to take a look at all of the different colors and textures and how they're going to communicate, how they're going to harmonize, right?
Yes.
And so let's say, for example, you've got your wedding coming up in a year and a half or whatever. We can actually sit down and put together a bespoke color palette, and I can grow those botanicals for you. Hardcore, super
cool.
Niche, intense stuff.
Yeah.
I just live for it. Right?
Yeah, well, you're in the right city.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's super cool.
Would you be able to host events up there? Is that something?
They would be small but significant events. I mean, the rooftop itself is pretty big, but I've done everything I can to absolutely stuff it with as many botanicals as possible. And so I just moved back in September. So this is definitely garden version 1.0.
Yeah.
So this year it's going to be a lot of data collection, a lot of like, let go and let God. Like, all right, well, if my, Japanese bitter melons don't do it this year, then they'll do it next year. I mean, that's just the nature of gardening, cool. Right? So yeah, I'm growing all sorts of crazy stuff this year. You'll get tons of pictures all summer.
I love it.
Or you'll come over, obviously. You'll come over and check it out.
I would love to.
But yeah, I start everything from seed. And then, you just kind of like let everything kick ass from there.
I lied that I can't keep stuff alive.
Okay.
Really quick.
Good.
I struggle with houseplants specifically.
Okay.
During the pandemic, my ex and I lived in a tiny house on a farm in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I'm like, why am I blanking out that I grew food? Like we grew food from seed.
Thank you. This is
why
awesome.
am I so hard on myself?
It's correct. Totally.
But God forbid I can't keep a houseplant alive. You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
But it was really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool to watch like the life cycle of a flower birth a fruit or a vegetable.
Oh,
and like
it's transformative.
And then we can eat. But my problem was that everything I grew was really tiny. Like I'd get so excited about a carrot, it'd be this big. I'm
for sure.
I was too excited to pull all of them and eat them.
Well, you know the memes online of like, I spent $1,000 on my garden this year.
Yeah.
And then it's a picture of
a handful of
a palm-sized, like weirdly shaped, radish. And it was like this
Still
radish.
gratifying.
Yeah. Like this radish cost me $2,000.
Yeah.
Exactly. So no.
Props to real farmers.
Totally.
Growing lots of food.
Listen,
it's impressive.
No farms, no food.
Yeah.
Support your local farmers,
for sure.
Right? So yeah, I absolutely love it. And it's also such an amazing gift. The amount of people that I've spoken to in my life that are like, I don't know what to do, but can I just like come help? And I'm like,
oh, they want to like get dirty and plant stuff.
They want to get dirty.
Yeah, it's in us as humans.
It's in us as humans. It's such an intense medicine.
Yeah.
And I am so excited to have people come over at 5:30 in the morning, right before the sun the sun rises, and you're just gonna like put your sunscreen on and put your protective gear on and put your hat on and put your apron on, and we're gonna do it, And so gardens are better when communities work on them.
Yeah.
And so
cool.
I'm unbelievably excited to be able to share this with my people. Yeah. And what an insane gift that I have private outdoor space in New York City, right? I mean, it's my rooftop, it's my garden.
That's wonderful.
And so I am just so excited to share it with as many people as I can. And if I can do anything to, help heal a, jaded, disassociated New Yorker, right? Then I'm doing okay,
I think that also goes back to us speaking about self-care and sex work, of like sex workers, from what I know, like lots of hobbies, side hustles, multifaceted,
definitely
magical humans.
Definitely.
And I think that's what's so powerful about the brain of a sex worker is being really good at a lot of different things.
Yeah. We're definitely Renaissance women, and it's so awesome. The more that you get to know a sex worker, the more that is revealed to you about all of these different things that make up their week, all of these different things, or on top of like school or this or that, or all these different things. And it's you never run out of things to talk about. It's really wild. You never run out of things to learn about. And it's just really powerful. So plants are my thing.
I love that.
And we don't have time to go into all the other things, but I would say plants are definitely
very cool.
My biggest thing. Yeah.
Couple last questions as we wrap up. What advice would you give to a newer full-service sex worker or girlfriend experience sex worker?
Oh, man.
I mean, could be a whole other hour episode.
Totally. Yeah, I'll have to come back.
If we want to condense.
Yeah. So the short version of that would be, don't abandon yourself. No amount of money is worth abandoning yourself. I am more successful because I don't abandon myself. I am more successful because I have found ways to fold my personality into a space where we definitely fear being ourselves. We definitely fear, is this going to be, marketable or palatable, right, or things that, a client would want. And, and these are all valid, important questions as a business person, right? But the more that you lead with authenticity and honesty and your strengths, identify those early and lead with those. And you will become a beacon to the people that you're going to want to spend time with in the end.
Absolutely.
This work is not sustainable if you're spending time with people you don't want to spend time with. And I do understand and recognize that this is something that is a privilege.
Right.
So
everyone gets to pick and choose.
Yeah. So
clients.
I want to be very clear about that incredible privilege.
Yeah.
But even in moments when I did not think that this privilege was accessible to me, because I've definitely had those moments in the beginning, prioritize giving yourself that gift because you are going to be so thankful to yourself as you continue to learn and grow. Don't abandon yourself. Be true to yourself. Be brave. Be the manager in the room. You're the one that's controlling everything.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
Be the manager. Yep. Be strong. And find
others.
Yeah, find community. Even if you're shy, even if you're introverted, find community.
Definitely.
I cannot stress enough how I have gone through some scary, dark experiences in sex work. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
And I am here. I am strong. I continue to keep going because I have community. So definitely. I cannot stress that enough.
Especially when something is in the gray area, you know, of legality, and it's when something is in that space, you have to have the strong community.
Yeah, definitely.
And lastly, what would you say to maybe a first-time client who's nervous to hire a sex worker for a girlfriend experience?
We don't bite very hard.
Unless requested.
No. I'm going to say that the advice is kind of transferable. Be brave. Don't abandon yourself. Look for someone who their attitude online or the things that are important to them. Look for someone who you would like to spend time with.
Definitely.
Right? Look for someone that you click with. It's not just about physical beauty. Is that cool? Sure. But guess what? Beauty, it truly is only skin deep.
Yeah. You're spending time with this person.
You're spending quality time with this person. You're exchanging energy with this person. Let it be worthwhile. Find that person who clicks with you. Find that person who seems nice and kind. Do your research.
Totally.
Please do your research. Yes. The amount of people that I've heard, oh, well, I got scammed and da-da-da and this and this. And I'm like, no.
And then they're jaded about the entire thing.
And then they're jaded, exactly. Yeah. And then they don't want to do it. So do your research. If if you find someone who has, a super solid Twitter or a super solid Instagram
website.
Or the website, they hang out with a bunch of other gals in the industry and they post about it.
Right.
These are all incredibly valuable ways to verify someone's identity.
I've seen a lot of fake accounts on Twitter. A lot. But they do a good job,
it's
though.
Really
These people
scary.
are like posting hundreds of photos and buying thousands of followers, and I could imagine that feels confusing and overwhelming for clients.
It's confusing and it's scary.
Yeah,
and so
do the extra layers of research.
The extra work, do it. It's definitely worth it. And once you find that person, the chances are after you get through the nerves of that first date, trust me, the second date is even better. The third date is even better, and so on and so forth. And you're going to have an amazing time.
Yeah. I love that. So where can people find you? What is your website?
Erin-Medina.com.
Okay, great.
It's, just kind of the meat and potatoes of it all. But if you want to follow me and unhinged GIFs and pictures of cats and plants and hot pictures of me every now and then, and retweets of like my favorite designers and photographers, you can follow me on Twitter.
Perfect.
At Erin Medina NYC.
Great.
And I will have an Instagram.
Yes, you will.
It is really happening. Gaze into the crystal ball. I'll have an Instagram that you can follow me on as well.
I'll tag you.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, it's my honor.
I'm glad
it's my pleasure.
We popped your cherry.
Yay!
And,
hooray!
This was wonderful. I'm excited to get to know you more.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode today. Be sure to stay in touch with us on socials at Seggs Talk Radio Podcast. That is SEGGS Talk Radio Podcast.